12 levels of texturing. Let's get started. As per usual, level 0. None. It's pretty good for walls and floors and anything that doesn't have texturing. There's just no texturing. Wall. Good. Level 1, mild texturing. This is just, it's 2 blocks, mostly stone, occasional andesite, but there is a very strict rule here, as you could probably tell, of every level only has 1 andesite, and no 2 andesite is directly touching. There's a corner here and a corner here, but no 2 andesite is directly touching. This is texturing, and it does add a lot to the build from level 0, but it's very clearly not natural, and it's very clearly planned. And there's a lot of things and rules that need to be broken to continue leveling up in this. Level 2, much like level 1, you found another block that is along the gradient and texturing line. So you start out with a very clean block, went slightly dirtier and even dirtier with the cobblestone, but it's still the same rule. They broke it a little bit here by having 2 different types of texturing blocks touch, here and a couple corners, but other than that, not too much. They also broke their 1 row rule, but as you can tell, there's no 2 andesite in a row and no 2 cobblestone in a row. So those rules are still in place. And we're on to level 3. This is, I'd say, a really big step up, is that they broke their rule. It's still the 3 types, and it's the cleanest, slightly dirty, more dirty for the texture, but they have made it so it's a lot more unique. They've broken the rules, blocks are able to touch and things along those nature, and it looks a lot more interesting. They also increase the amount of texturing by changing out more of the stone for more of the cobble and andesite, which adds a lot to this build. Up next is level 4, which is recognizing that texturing can go 2 ways. So we have this nice clean middle block, but more structure in the stone brick is also texturing. It isn't what we normally think of like andesite and cobblestone when it comes to stone, but it is still texturing because it's adding structure instead of removing it, which creates a larger span of texture. So it's 2 clean and 2 dirty, and it looks good. After that is a 2-2-1, which is 2 clean, 2 dirty, but also another block that adds a little bit more color and variety to the build with the mossy stone brick. Also, this was done using a poke method, which is you fill it all in with stone, break a random amount of blocks, and then fill those in later and kind of fixed up later. The rest of them, it was planned along the lines of like, I want this one, that one. This was random poke method, which makes it a little bit more sporadic. There's more stone overall, but the texturing is very solid nonetheless. Level 6 is that we've added more blocks. We've added this coral block along with a cracked stone brick to add even more variety to this. So we have even more dirtiness. So clean, then 3 dirty blocks, even more dirty and grimy in a different color than the cobblestone is, but also we've added an in-between where it's slightly dirty, but also has the structure of stone brick with the cracked stone brick, which looks really, really well. Once again, with the random poke method, but it adds a lot more variety to it. It makes it a lot more intriguing, especially with the warm tones of the coral block. Level 7, this is where things get a little more unique. We're going to actually have to use this hotbar I have down here, which is, there's just 3 blocks, but it's a lot more unique and interesting. The way that this was accomplished was with having the 3 blocks, but having it like this, which I know is a little funky and might not make a lot of sense to you. But the idea is that they're all split up into the same amount, and it's just scroll, place, scroll, place, scroll, place, scroll, place. And that way you always you have a variety, you break your own rules, but also you break your own bias. Because you might naturally be like, that's too much stone, there needs to be an andesite. Well, texturing means that sometimes it is consistent, and there is a lot of stone in one area. The issue here is why this is level 7 is the fact that it is in a consistent. Everything has its stone, andesite, stone brick, stone, andesite, stone brick. There's 3 of each in the hotbar of 9, so they're all equal percentages. Level 8. This is another 3 block scroll, but as you can tell now, there's a lot more stone. This was done with 5 of the slots being stone, 3 of the slots being the stone brick, and only 1 slot being the andesite, which made it so there was a lot less andesite, less stone brick overall, but the stone is a lot more prevalent. So that way you still have a foundational block. That clean stone is the highlight, and everything else is adding the detail and texture instead of it just being everything is texturing each other. You need that little consistent stable factor sometimes. Here is level 9. This is where you're still doing the scroll method as we learned from 7 and 8, but you're adding depth with both walls and stairs. And you sometimes they don't play nice, but I think this right here is totally acceptable and looks fairly nice. The 3 extra pixels there just kind of adds a little extra something to it. But yes, this is really good for dilapidated builds and things of that nature, walls that are maybe deteriorating a little bit, and having that extra little bit pushes this from a level 8 to a level 9. Level 10, we're breaking away from pure texturing to go into texture gradients, and I want to do the copper here just because first off, I'm trying to get into a lot of steampunk stuff, but also it stands out a lot so that we're able to see it a little bit more clear. At the beginning here, it was a scroll method, and I had it where it was about 6 copper and 3 stone, so it was a lot more, and then it went to about an even split for these ones, then it went down to just 3, and then there's only 1 copper in the row of 9 for up here, as you can tell. So we went from heavy copper to light, so when a larger and larger build where you'd be having to expand it over more and more and more, you're able to have a gradient going up, and it's a 1 block gradient. So you have your stone, and then you slowly filter in copper from most to least, or least to most. Level 11, it's a multi-block gradient scroll. So we're still using our random scrolling method that has been serving us well for a while, but we've changed up the rules. So down here, we start with a lot of structure blocks. So the mossy cobble, stone brick, even a cracked stone brick in here with some things, but no cobble in these bottom few rows. Move up a little bit higher, the stone brick has faded off, there's more andesite, and now we have cobble introduced, and we get to the top. And this is the highest stone brick we have. Up here, I did not have stone brick anymore. We added in walls to be able to add a little bit of depth and dilapidation. We went from very solid, structurally sound to something that is falling apart a little bit. By changing up what we have as we work in our scroll wheel, we're able to create a gradient of multiple blocks that is able to make it so we're able to go from something that is one-way feeling of structured sound and ready to hold up a roof to, well, I guess that it is difficult to repair a roof that is, well, 10 meters high. It's a little scary and a little dangerous, isn't it? And now on to level 12. This is a 2-tone accent gradient. So we have our standard gradient in the middle here, where we have a lot of different color blocks of stone, brick, andesite, things like that, but we also mixed in yellow concrete and yellow wool. And we started out with being 50% of the blocks being the yellow, and slowly went down to 3, 2, 1 for these in-between bits. But we also started to filter in purple around here, so that way it began to get more and more purple. That way we're able to have different accents and things of that nature. If you're wondering what this looks like on a grander scale, you can see my next intrinsic video where I'm going to be building something that has this exact thing, but it's going to be from dark to lighter tones. But this right here is what it looks like to be able to have a 2 accent tone gradient, which is really important because you're not only filtering out certain blocks to change it, you're filtering in different blocks while also trying to keep a consistent background gradient, which is our gray blocks in the back. Now, to be clear, this is level 12, but 13, 14, 15, and 16 also exist as well. And if you guys have any ideas what those would be like, I would really appreciate comments in the background and things of that nature of what could change the texturing world and be able to add more to textures and gradients. But each of these have their own place and own uniqueness. This is really good if you have multiple tones for a city or something like that. But a lot of these other ones are just as good and have their own place and purpose. Some of you may not be ready for a scroll method or willing to put in the time because frankly, scroll takes a lot longer, but all of these have their own spot and place, including, yes, level 0. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I ask you to please leave comments and likes down below if you did enjoy it, and if you have any recommendations or anything you want me to do in the future for building levels, I would really appreciate it. But until then, I will see you guys sometime soon with the next one. Goodbye. YouTube, my boys, if you enjoyed that video, I'd really appreciate if you drop a like or a comment down below and drop a sub if you feel like it. And if you're new here, let me know. I'd be really happy to be able to say hello to you down in the comments. But if you enjoyed it, please let me know down below. And if you want to continue watching, we'll have a few more videos here on screen that you can click on. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you at the next one.